Not too long ago, we were doing exactly what you're doing right now. Binge watching a ton of YouTube videos, trying to figure out how to achieve the perfect audio. And we realized that there's a lot of information out there, but some videos are kind of overwhelming, covering way more details than you really need. Others use lots of technical words that make it feel like you need to be an audio engineer just to follow along. And sometimes you end a video feeling even more confused than when you started. That's what inspired us to create this, an audio tutorial that's straightforward, focusing only on the essential information you need. One that keeps the language simple and easy to understand, regardless of your background. And one that, after watching, you'll be confident that you'll get the perfect audio every time. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. And in this video, we'll show you how to record separate audio tracks so that you can adjust each one individually, how to record voiceovers, get rid of background noise, balance the volume of your dialogue so that it's consistent, and perfectly balance music with dialogue so that the music never gets too loud when you're speaking. We'll even show you how to save your audio settings as a template along the way so that you can easily access them each time you start a new project, making your editing faster and more efficient. First, let's create the right environment for recording. We need to get rid of everything that could cause distractions. And by distractions, I mean random sounds like buzzing, humming, and hissing. Move your cell phone, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth devices away from your speakers and any devices you're using to record, because these things can transfer noisy signals. Never bundle audio cables together because it could cause interference. And don't forget about your immediate environment. Turn off fans and noisy air conditioners. Close windows and doors. You may be thinking, well, can't I just remove these noises during the editing process? Yes, you can, but the noise removal process can also hurt the quality of your voice. So remember, the more distractions and background noises you can remove before you start recording, the better. If you're recording in a windy environment, make sure to use a wind muff on your microphone. This will help cut down on that noisy, windy sound. The good news is a lot of microphones that would be used in windy environments come with these wind muffs. Now that we've removed the background noises and distractions, we need to place the microphone in the correct position. The better the positioning of your microphone, the clearer your audio will sound. The mic needs to be as close as possible to whatever you're recording, but not too close. There needs to be enough distance so that the recording doesn't sound distorted or muffled. If you're speaking into a dynamic microphone, you should be about a fist's distance away from the mic. If you're speaking into a condenser microphone, you could be a bit farther away from the microphone. But keep this in mind, the farther you are away from the microphone, the lower your audio quality will likely be. Also, the farther you are away from the microphone, the more background noise you'll pick up, because you'll have to turn up the volume to make up for the extra distance. It's also important that you position the microphone so that you're speaking slightly above it or slightly off to the side of it. Why is this? It's because this will help you to avoid the loud popping sounds that tend to happen when we say words that include letters like the letter P. These types of words are called plosives. By speaking slightly above or slightly off to the side of the mic, it lessens the impact of the sharp air that comes from plosives. If you're someone who prefers to have the mic positioned directly in front of you, you can use a pop filter. Pop filters can act as a barrier between you and the mic, and they'll catch the air as you're speaking or singing. Just make sure that the pop filter is positioned a couple of inches away from the microphone. There are other mouth sounds like mouth clicks that can come from having a dry mouth. In most cases, you can get rid of that by taking a few sips of water. If you're using a shotgun microphone or pencil condenser, it should be positioned as close as possible so that it's just outside of the view of the camera. If you're using a lapel microphone, then you have more options. Clip it to your chest, the collar of your shirt, the bill of your hat. Some even position the lapel mic so that it sits on their forehead. Okay, the background noises and distractions are gone, and the microphone is positioned in a way that your audio will sound very clear. Now, let's start setting up that template so that you can save all of the audio settings that we show you during this tutorial. This way, you won't have to keep adjusting these audio settings every time you start a new project. Let's start the template by deciding which audio you want to use. You can record your audio directly in DaVinci Resolve, or you can use audio or video files that you already have. If you want to start fresh and record audio directly in DaVinci Resolve, you can skip ahead to this chapter of the video and I'll show you exactly how to do it there. However, if you want to use audio or video files that you already have, then stay here because I'm about to show you that first. Okay, since we're going to use audio or video files that we already have, let's start on the edit page. From the edit page, go to File, and then select New Project. Let's name this project Project Template, and then click Create. Next, we'll create a new timeline for the project. Open the media pool, right-click any space in the media pool area, hover over Timeline, and then select Create New Timeline. When the Settings panel opens, change the timeline name to Template Timeline. And as for the number of audio tracks, in this example, because I have 6 tracks, I'll enter 6 for the number of audio tracks. We'll also make sure that we have the right project settings for our timeline. Unselect Use Project Settings, and then click Format. This is where you can set your desired resolution and frame rate for the timeline. Make sure that the settings for your timeline and frame rate are set to what you normally use for your project. Remember, we're creating a template, and using the settings that you always use will save you from the hassle of adjusting the video and audio settings every time you start a new project. If you're not sure about what settings are best for you, then check out our beginner's guide where we explain how to choose the best settings. Now that I'm sure that my project has the right settings, I'll click Create. If you look in the media pool, you'll notice that a new file has been created for your timeline. If you delete this file, it will remove all of the edits and changes you make to this project. In other words, it will delete the template you create. So whatever you do, don't delete this file. Now that we have the correct timeline settings, let's drag the audio and video files we want to work with into the media pool. After that, drag each file onto the timeline one by one, stacking them on top of each other. You'll notice that as you place the files on the timeline, each track appears exactly where you drop it. However, if you record it in OBS like I did, and your file has multiple audio tracks, when you drag your file onto the timeline, all of the tracks will appear at the same time. Now that our audio and video tracks have been added to the timeline, let's go to the Fairlight page. It's the second to last tab at the bottom of the workspace. It looks like this. Click the Fairlight tab. This is where you can edit and perfect the audio in your video. Once the Fairlight page opens, you'll see your audio tracks in the middle and a mixer tool at the right. If you added a video to your timeline, you'll also see a preview of your video at the top right. Now, let's label each track so that we can easily identify what type of audio is on each one. I'll double-click the audio label to rename them. In this example, I'll label my tracks Dialogue, Browser, Game, Desktop, Alerts, and Music. If you're not sure what audio is on your tracks, click the solo button to listen to each track one at a time while you label them. This way, you can be sure of what each one is. Next, let's make sure that all of our dialogue tracks, meaning all of the tracks that we're actually speaking on, are set to mono. Right-click on the track label of the dialogue track. Hover over Change Track to, and then select mono. Why not stereo? Well, most microphones that are used to record voices are made specifically for mono recording. Sure, you can record your voice in stereo, but if you happen to be using a stereo microphone, it could give off the effect of what's called wandering audio. And this effect can make the listener feel uncomfortable or uneasy since we aren't used to hearing the sound of a voice wandering from one ear to the other. So, unless you want to make the listener feel uneasy, for example, for a tense or scary scene, it's best to choose mono for your voice tracks. What if you want to make sure that certain tracks are always muted every time you import or drag your files onto the timeline? For example, if your recording has copyrighted music or stream alerts, you may want to set up your template so that the music and alerts are always automatically muted when you drag them onto the timeline. In this case, simply click the mute button on the track that you want to silence. Or right-click on the track that you want to silence and then select Disable Track. Personally, I prefer to disable the track because it clearly shows that the track is not being used, which makes everything easier to manage. Now that you know how to start a template using the audio and video files that you already have, you can move on to the next step, which is processing the audio. This is the part where we'll adjust the audio so that it sounds clear and consistent every time. If you're ready to process your audio, you can skip ahead to this chapter of the video, and I'll show you how to do it there. However, if you want to know how to record your audio directly in DaVinci Resolve, that is, if you want to create audio that you can use to sync with video from a camera or to use for a voiceover, then stay here because I'm about to show you. Okay, since we're going to record our audio directly in DaVinci Resolve, let's start a new project in the Fairlight page. That's the second to last tab at the bottom of the workspace. From the Fairlight page, go to File, and then select New Project. Let's name this project Project Template, and then click Create. Now that we have our new project, we can add audio tracks to this project. Specifically, we're going to add an audio track so that we can record our voice. And this means that we need to start a new timeline. Open the media pool, right-click any space in the media pool area, hover over Timelines, and then select Create New Timeline. When the Settings panel opens, change the timeline name to Template Timeline. Then choose the type of audio track you want to start with. Click the drop-down menu beside Audio Track Type, and you'll see a list of audio types. Remember, this track will be used to record our voice, so we'll select mono. Why not stereo? Well, most microphones that are used to record voices are made specifically for mono recording. Sure, you can record your voice in stereo, but if you happen to be using a stereo microphone, it could give off the effect of what's called wandering audio. And this effect can make the listener feel uncomfortable or uneasy since we aren't used to hearing the sound of a voice wandering from one ear to the other. So, unless you want to make the listener feel uneasy, for example, for a tense or scary scene, it's best to choose mono when recording your voice. We'll also make sure that we have the right project settings for our timeline. Unselect Use Project Settings, and then click Format. This is where you can set your desired resolution and frame rate for the timeline. Make sure that the settings for your resolution and frame rate are set to what you normally use for your project. Remember, we're creating a template, And using the settings that you always use will save you from the hassle of adjusting the video and audio settings every time you start a new project. If you're not sure what settings are best for you, then check out our beginner's guide where we explain how to choose the best settings. Now that I'm sure that my project has the right settings and I've selected the correct audio type for my voice track, I'll click Create. Now we can see our voice track. Let's change the name of the audio track. We're going to use this audio track to record our voice. So double-click Audio 1, change the name of the track to Voice, and then hit Enter. What if we want to add additional tracks, for example, sound effects or more voice tracks? Simple. Here, let's add a track for our music. Right-click on any track label and then select Add Tracks. You'll be asked how many tracks you want to add, and you can add as many tracks as you'd like. But since we're only adding one track, we won't change this number. As for the position, I want the additional tracks to show up below the voice track. The position is currently set to below voice, so I won't change it. Lastly, you'll be asked to choose the type of audio tracks you want to use. Unless you're adding another voice track, you should select stereo. Why stereo? We're choosing stereo because, unlike with voices, we're actually used to experiencing the effect of wandering audio that stereo provides on things like music and sound effects. It creates the feeling of a wider soundstage and makes the experience feel more immersive for the listener. Now, click Add Tracks. You'll notice that the track we just created for our music is below the voice track. Let's label this track Music. Double-click Audio 2. Change the name of the track to Music, and then hit Enter. There. Now we have two tracks. A1 is for our voice, and A2 is for our music. Now that we have audio tracks to work with, how do we connect our microphone to the voice track so that we can start recording? Well, first, we need to make sure that DaVinci knows which microphone you prefer to record with. Go to the top of the menu and click DaVinci Resolve. Then select Preferences. When the preference box opens, select the Video and Audio I/O category. Next, click the drop-down menu beside Input Device and you'll see a list of microphones. Specifically, you'll see every microphone that you currently have plugged into your computer. If you only have one mic plugged into your computer, then you won't see a list of options. Instead, the program will have already selected the mic for you. If you are choosing a microphone from the list, you'll likely see the word microphone and then the brand of your mic beside it. For example, I prefer to record with my Beacon microphone, so I'll select Microphone Beacon Mic. Video and Audio I/O category is also where you can choose which device you want to use for listening to the playback. Click the drop-down menu beside Output Device and select your preferred headphones or speakers, and then hit Save. Now that we've chosen our preferred microphone, we can connect the microphone to our voice track. If you look at the right at the Mixer tool, you'll notice that there's a column for each audio track that we created. You'll remember that A1 represents our first audio track, which is being used for voice. You'll notice that the A1 column has an input category. Currently, there's no input because we haven't connected a microphone to the track. Let's do that. Click No Input and then select Input. A box will appear. To the left, below Source, you'll see a list of inputs. Specifically, you'll see every microphone and musical instrument that you currently have plugged into your computer. Select the mic that you want to record with. You may see the same mic listed twice. Usually, this happens if your microphone interface is designed to be connected to more than one device. In that case, the computer recognizes it multiple times. But don't worry, you can pick either option and it will work just fine. However, if you have both an instrument and a mic plugged into your microphone interface, you may have to experiment to figure out which option is actually the microphone. In my case, I want to record with my beacon mic, so I'll click the first option. Now that we've selected a microphone, we can choose a track to send the sound to. To the right, below destination, you'll see a list of tracks. In this example, we'll send the sound from the mic to the voice track. So, select the track that says voice, click patch, and then exit the menu. You'll notice that now, if you hover over the input for A1, the name of the microphone that you just selected appears, meaning our microphone is officially connected to the voice track. Before we start recording, it's important that you know that you'll be hearing your voice as you record into the microphone. This is called monitoring, and it's set up that way by default. Being able to hear or monitor your voice while you record can be extremely helpful, especially if your audio interface doesn't have built-in monitoring. However, in DaVinci Resolve, this monitoring, as with a lot of audio software that allows you to add effects, has a small bit of delay, which can sound like an echo. And this can be kind of distracting when you're trying to record. If you have built-in monitoring in your microphone or interface, and you want to reduce this delay, then plug your headphones directly into the headphone jack on your microphone or into your microphone interface. This helps to reduce the delay so you can hear your voice almost right away. And this may make it easier to stay focused while you record. You can leave the monitoring on if you're okay with the delay and don't have any built-in monitoring. But if you don't want to hear DaVinci Resolve's mic monitoring in your headphones, you can simply mute the track that you're recording on while you're recording. If you have other audio tracks on your timeline, you can easily lower their volume or mute them temporarily. Simply use the volume controls located above the mixer. You can click dim to reduce the volume a little, or use the volume slider to adjust it to your liking, or completely mute all of the tracks if you prefer complete silence while you record. However, keep this in mind. If you choose to mute something, make sure that you remember to unmute it after you finish recording, because if you don't, you won't be able to hear that part of the audio during playback or after you've exported your final video. If you choose to not select any of these options, then the default monitoring settings will remain. I prefer to record with the default monitoring settings, so I won't change anything. Now that your audio track, microphone, and monitoring are all set up, it's officially time to record. So how do we let DaVinci know which track we want to record on? Simple. We need to arm the track for recording. When you arm a track for recording, you're telling DaVinci that you're about to record on that specific track. In this example, we want to record on the track that we created for voice. So go to the voice track and click R, or Arm for Record. There, the program is listening and ready to capture any sound that comes from the voice track. Now that the voice track is armed for recording and the program is listening for our voice, we can use this audio meter to make sure that our audio isn't too loud. This audio meter measures how loud the sound is in numbers called decibels. Specifically, decibels, or dBs, show us the intensity of the sound. The closer the number is to 0, the louder and more intense our sound is. But we don't want it to reach 0, because when it reaches 0, the audio will sound very distorted. This distortion is called clipping. So, how can we make sure that our voice never clips? Simple. We need to keep the volume of our voice within a certain range. The best range for our voice levels are between -12 dB and -20 dB. This way, even if we speak a little louder than usual, our voice won't sound distorted. And this means that we'll have a quality track to work with when we edit and make adjustments to the audio later. So let's adjust the volume of our voice so that the levels are between -12 dB and -20 dB. The way in which you adjust the volume of your voice will depend on the type of equipment you have. If your microphone or the interface it's plugged into has a volume knob or fader, simply speak into the mic, and as you're speaking, pay attention to the volume meter. Turn the volume knob on your microphone or slide the fader up or down on your interface until you see the volume peak somewhere between -12 dB and -20 dB. If you have a USB mic or interface that does not feature a volume knob or fader, then you'll need to change the volume inside of the software that came with your mic. What if your USB mic doesn't have a volume knob or fader, nor does it come with its own software? Well, if you're recording in DaVinci, you can set your volume levels there. Here, I'll show you. Go over to the mixer and find the track that has your microphone. Click the microphone in the input category, and then select Path Settings. From there, you can adjust the recording level until the volume peaks somewhere between -12 dB and -20 dB. Now we can record. If you're ready to record, first hit the record button, then record for at least 20 to 25 seconds. The first 4 to 5 seconds of your recording should be of silence. It may seem strange, but this will come in handy later on in this video. The rest of your recording should be you speaking at your normal volume. Finally, once you're done recording, press stop. Now that we've finished recording and pressed stop, let's disable Arm for Record. By the way, if you're recording a voiceover for a video, you'll actually be able to see the video playing in the top right of the Fairlight page while you're recording your audio. In my case, for the purpose of this tutorial, before I press record, I'll turn off all of those special effects and settings that are built into my mic. I want you to hear how the recording sounds unedited without these special effects so that it will be easier to notice what improvements we make to the audio later in this video. I'll also turn on a fan to create background noise so that I can show you how to remove background noise. Okay, I'll press the record button, record a few seconds of silence, read my script, and then press stop. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now that we've finished recording and press stop, let's disable Arm for Record. And in my case, I'll turn the special effects for my mic back on and the fan off for the rest of the tutorial. If you look into the media pool, you'll notice a new audio file. When you record, DaVinci creates an audio file for each new recording inside of your media pool. This can be really helpful to know when keeping track of each new recording you make. Okay, now I'll show you how to process your audio. In other words, by the end of this section, you'll be able to do magical things with your audio so that it sounds clear and consistent every time. But before we do that, there are 3 very important things that you need to know. First, you need to know how to properly raise your volume. What do I mean? Well, when you play your recording back so that you can hear what it sounds like, you may notice that the volume seems very low. Here, I'll play my recording back to show you what I mean. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. You'll notice that the volume sounds pretty low. This is perfectly normal. Remember, before we started recording, we adjusted the recording volume so that it wouldn't get so loud that it started to sound distorted, also known as clipping. Now, let me show you how to properly raise the volume. In order to properly raise the volume, we need to use something called audio normalization. When we normalize the audio, we're telling DaVinci to analyze the audio track and raise the volume to the proper level. This way, we'll have the perfect levels before we start removing the background noise and making it sound crystal clear. So, how do we normalize the audio? Simple. Right-click on the track and select Normalize Audio Levels. Then, click the drop-down menu beside Normalization Mode and select the YouTube setting. Okay, now that we've chosen the YouTube setting, we'll click Normalize. The YouTube normalization setting can work for any platform you're uploading your video to, but it's especially helpful if you're uploading your video to YouTube. Why is that? It's because if your volume is too loud, YouTube will reprocess and lower the volume of your video, and this can change the quality of the sound. But when you choose the YouTube normalization setting, YouTube won't have to make any changes to your audio because the volume will already be perfect. Okay, I'll play my recording back so that you can hear what it sounds like after the volume has been properly raised. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Okay, the second important thing that you need to know is how to visually inspect the audio. How can we do that? Simple, by looking at the waveforms. Waveforms are those spiky shapes on the track. Let's take a closer, more detailed look. Hover over the bottom of the track that you just recorded on, and when this icon appears, drag the bottom of the track label so that the track appears larger. You could also make it larger with this slider. To make the track appear longer, click this horizontal slider and drag it to the right. Now that we have a more detailed view, you'll notice that these white shapes have spikes that represent the varying audio levels. The taller spikes indicate louder audio, while the shorter spikes indicate quieter audio. By analyzing these spikes, you can identify random, unwanted sounds that may still be present even after noise removal, such as loud pops or clicks. Also, if you see a flat line, it means there's silence. Now you know how to visually inspect the audio, and this will come in handy later on in this video. But for now, the third important thing that you need to know is how to add effects to your audio. DaVinci Resolve provides many audio effects to help you clean up your audio, and we're going to add some of those effects in this tutorial. So let me show you how to add an effect. You can choose to add an effect to just one audio clip, or you can choose to add an effect to the entire track. In other words, the effect can be applied to every audio clip on that track. Here, I'll show you. Go over to the media pool and drag your voice recording onto the timeline and place it beside the first clip. Then, right-click on the clip and normalize it so that both clips have the same volume. There, now we have two clips. Also, for the purpose of this tutorial, let's name these two clips so that we can keep better track of them. To name the clips, select the first clip, and then go to the top of the workspace and select Inspector. Now, click File. Go to the Name section, and then change the name of the first clip to Clip 1. After you finish typing, click anywhere outside of the name field, and you'll see here at the top, the name of the clip is now Clip 1. Now, let's click the second clip and change the name of it to Clip 2. After you finish typing, click anywhere outside of the name field, and you'll see here at the top, the name of the clip is now Clip 2. You'll notice that even though the clip names change at the top of the inspector, the track still shows the name of the original audio clip. Now, if you want to add an effect to just one audio clip, go to the top of the workspace and click Effects. When the Effects tab opens, make sure that Audio FX is selected. You'll notice two categories, Fairlight FX and VST effects. Fairlight FX are the effects that came with DaVinci Resolve. VST effects are the effects that you downloaded and installed from somewhere else. You won't see VST effects if you haven't downloaded and installed any effects. Don't worry, you won't need to download or install anything for this tutorial. To the right, you'll see a list of all of your effects. You can click and drag one of these effects over to your timeline and then drop it directly on the audio clip that you want to change. In this example, let's select the pitch effect. You'll notice that when we add a new effect, a settings panel pops up. These effects panels allow you to make changes to the settings of the effect and customize the sound of the effect to your liking. Also, you'll notice that the top of the panel shows the name of the clip or track that you're currently making changes to. Keep an eye on that. This way, you won't accidentally change effects or settings on the wrong track. In this example, we'll make changes to the pitch effect on clip 1. By turning this knob, I can make the pitch higher
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen.
Or lower.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen.
You can easily control the knob by clicking and holding it and then dragging your mouse in a straight line from left to right. You can also type numbers directly into the box below if you want an exact setting. When we play it back, you'll notice that only one clip has the effect.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen. You can also make changes to the settings of the effect inside of Inspector. In fact, while you can control the effects in the settings panel, we prefer to control the effects from Inspector. Why? Because Inspector will only show you the settings that you need the most, and this makes it easier to use. Here, let me show you. Click on the audio clip that has the effect. Then go over to Inspector, and from there, select Effects, and you'll be able to access the settings of the effect. If you exit the settings panel, the one with the knobs, and you want to bring it back up, click the custom icon next to the effect, and the panel will pop up again. If you want to disable the effect so that you can hear what the audio sounds like without it, click the red toggle switch to turn the effect off, either in the panel or in the inspector. And you can click and toggle it back on when needed. If you want to remove the effect from the audio clip entirely, simply select the audio clip that has the effect that you want to remove, and then click the trash icon next to the effect that you want to remove. In this example, we'll remove the pitch effect. You can add several effects to one audio clip. And you can remove each one individually. But keep this in mind. Adding the same effect to a clip multiple times can degrade the audio quality of your voice. So it's best to avoid adding a duplicate effect. Only add effects as much as needed. But what if you want to add an effect to the entire track? In other words, what if you want to add an effect to every audio clip on that track? Simple. Click and drag one of the effects over to your timeline and then drop it directly on the track label that you want to change. Let's select the pitch effect again. And again, The settings panel will pop up and you can make changes to the settings of the effect by turning the knobs or typing directly into the box below. This time, when we play it back, you'll notice that both audio clips have the same effect.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen.
Let's exit out of the pitch panel. Remember, you can also make changes to the settings of the effect inside of Inspector. Simply click the track label to highlight the track that has the effect. Then go over to Inspector, click Effects, and you'll be able to access all of the settings of the effect. Toggle the effect on and off as needed. If you want to remove the effect from the track entirely, click the trash icon next to the effect that you want to remove. Let's remove the pitch effect. And just like with individual audio clips, you can add several effects to a track. And you can remove each one from the track individually. But again, keep this in mind that adding the same effect to a track multiple times can degrade the audio quality of your voice, so it's best to avoid adding a duplicate effect. Only add effects as much as needed. Fortunately, DaVinci has added a new feature that allows you to easily toggle between the audio clip and a track level. With this feature, you can quickly remove effects or see which effects or settings are being used on an audio clip or track. In Inspector, just above the Video tab, you'll see two icons. This icon represents the clip that is currently selected, and this icon represents the track that is currently selected. Currently, we're on the track level. And when you're on the track level, you'll see all of the settings and effects that are applied to that track. You'll see the name of the track that is currently selected, and below the tabs, you'll see track level. Click the clip icon, and you'll see all of the settings and effects that are applied to that clip. You'll either see the name of the clip that is currently selected or the name of the original audio file. I just showed you the basics of adding effects to your audio and how to manage and keep track of those things. It's something that you definitely needed to know, but there's another way that you can add effects to the entire track. It's faster, it's easier, and at a quick glance, you'll know exactly which effects you've added to which tracks. Not only that, but you can use it to help you create your own customized presets so that you can apply them to podcasts, vlogs, or just regular talking head videos. I'm talking about adding effects to the Mixer tool. But before we go over to the Mixer tool, it's getting a little crowded, so I'll close the Effects tab. Now, go over to the Mixer and look for the track that you want to add the effect to. You'll remember in this example, A1 represents our first audio track, which is being used for voice. So we'll add the effect to the A1 track. Go to the A1 column and click the plus sign next to Effects, and a menu will appear. If you hover over each category in the menu, you'll see a list of effects. These are the same effects that are in the Effects tab that we used earlier, but here they're listed in a way that is more organized. Select the effect that you want to add to the track. Again, let's select the pitch effect. You'll notice that the pitch effect is now visible in the A1 column. Also, the settings panel has popped up. Just as we did earlier, we can make adjustments to the effect as needed. And you can also change the settings of the effect in Inspector. Simply click the track icon to toggle to the track level. From there, select Effects, and you'll be able to access the settings of the effect. If you exit the settings panel, the one with the knobs, and you want to bring it back up, you can click the controls icon in the mixer, and the panel will pop up again. If you want to disable the effect so that you can hear what the audio sounds like without it, you can click the red toggle switch to turn the effect off, and you can click and toggle it back on when needed. You'll notice that in the mixer tool, when you toggle the effect on, the effect name turns yellow. When you toggle the effect off, the name turns gray. You can add several effects to one track. If you want to disable all of the effects at one time so that you can hear what the track sounds like without them, click the yellow Effects In icon and click it again to turn the effects back on. If you want to remove an effect from the track entirely, simply hover over the effect that you want to remove, click the arrow icon, and then click Delete Plugin. Okay, now that those three things are taken care of, I'll show you those magical things that can make your audio sound clear and consistent every time. First, we're going to remove any remaining unwanted background noise. How? Simple. We'll add an effect that is specifically designed to remove these noises. There are 3 effects that we can use to reduce noise. 2 of them are only available in DaVinci Resolve Studio, the paid version of the software. These effects are the easiest to use. The 3rd effect is a bit more manual, but it's free to use in DaVinci Resolve. I'll show you each of these effects. Let's start with the 2 effects that are the easiest to use. That is dialogue separator and voice isolation. You won't find these effects in the regular effects tab. Instead, they're located in the mixer, specifically in the track FX category. These effects are in a special category because they're more advanced. Effects in this category use AI technology to do powerful things such as isolating voices, getting rid of unwanted background sounds or unwanted instruments in music, and automatically lowering the music volume when you're speaking. And unlike the effects in the regular effects tab, generally the effects in the track FX category can only be applied to entire tracks, not individual audio clips. Let's start with the dialogue separator effect. This feature gives you precise control over your audio by allowing you to separate your dialogue, the speaker's voice, from background noise and the ambiance, the environmental sound of your surroundings. Essentially, it enables you to mute or adjust the volume of your voice, the background noise, or the ambiance as if they were all on separate audio tracks. What do I mean by the ambiance of your environment? Well, imagine someone telling jokes in a large hall in front of a laughing audience, like for example in this clip.
I could prove I'm from the future. I don't even think I could. I think I would just get stuck.
In this clip, the background noise is the laughter. The dialogue is the speaker's voice.
I don't even know if I could prove I'm from the future.
And the ambiance is the echo or reverberation from the large room.
Because they would want something like, who's the next president?
If we removed everything except the voice, it would sound very clear, but it could also seem strange. It could seem strange for someone to be speaking in a large hall without any echo or reverberation.
And they're like, yeah, it's like, how do they do it? I'm like, I don't know how they do it.
We could lose the sense of our environment. The ambiance adds a sense of space, making the recording feel more realistic and engaging. With the dialogue separator, we can bring back that ambiance without the distracting chatter.
And they're like, yeah, it's like, how do they do it? I'm like, I don't know how they do it.
This way, even though all background noise is removed, you can still hear the echo of the large room, creating a more natural and immersive audio experience. So how do you use the dialogue separator? Simple. In the inspector, on the track level, the audio tab contains all of the effects that are in the track FX category. Toggle the dialogue separator on. As you can see, you can mute the voice, you can mute the background, and you can also mute the ambiance. You can even control the volume of each of these elements, and you can reset each element. In this example, we'll remove all of the background noise and keep everything else the same. Now, let's toggle dialogue separator off and play our audio to hear what it sounds like without the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Okay, now let's toggle dialogue separator on to hear what it sounds like with the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. You'll notice that there's no background noise, but we still have a sense of ambiance. That is, we still have a sense of our environment. Now, let's turn the dialogue separator off. Again, while we prefer to control effects in the inspector, we can also keep track of any of the effects that we're using in the Track FX category inside of the mixer. Here, I'll show you. Go over to the Mixer tool. You'll notice that by default, in the Track FX category, there are only 2 effects listed. However, we can add any Track FX category to this list. How? Click these 3 dots and a menu will appear. Hover over Visible Track FX and you'll see a list of effects. Let's select Dialogue Separator. You'll notice that the Dialogue Separator effect is now listed in the Track FX category. The second noise removal tool that we're going to talk about is voice isolation. The voice isolation effect does exactly what its name says. It isolates your voice from everything around it, removing the background noise and leaving only your voice. But why would we use voice isolation when dialogue separator can technically do the same thing? Well, as mentioned earlier, generally, the effects in the Track FX category can only be applied to entire tracks. However, voice isolation is one of the exceptions. This effect can be used on both the track level and on a clip-by-clip basis. So in this way, voice isolation is a bit more flexible than the dialogue separator, which can only be used on the track level. So how do you use voice isolation? Simple. Click the clip that you want to add the voice isolation effect to. Then go over to Inspector and click the Audio tab. You can toggle the voice isolation effect on for that specific clip. And you can use the slider to remove as much or as little of the background noise as you want. However, in this example, we're not going to enable the voice isolation effect for just one clip. We're going to enable the voice isolation effect for the entire track. So, toggle the voice isolation effect off on the clip level. Then, select the track level and turn the voice isolation effect on here. In this example, we'll leave it at 100 to remove as much background noise as possible. Now, let's toggle voice isolation off and play our audio to hear what it sounds like without the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Okay, now toggle voice isolation on to hear what it sounds like with the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. You should notice that there's no background noise. You can use a slider to remove as much or as little of the background noise as you want, and you can also reset the amount. We'll turn the voice isolation effect off for now. What if you don't have the dialogue separator or the voice isolation effect? In other words, how do you get rid of the background noise if you're using the free version of DaVinci Resolve? Well, in this case, you can use the noise reduction effect. The noise reduction effect can be found in the mixer. Specifically, it's located in the effects category. Go over to the mixer and in the A1 column, which is our voice column, click the plus sign beside effects. A menu will appear. Scroll down and hover over Restoration. Then select Noise Reduction. A settings panel will pop up. Remember, as mentioned earlier, this noise removal tool is a bit more manual than the others. Dialog Separator and Voice Isolation use AI to automatically identify the background noise. However, the noise reduction effect is different in that you have to manually teach DaVinci which sounds are the background noise so that it knows which sounds to remove. So how do you manually teach DaVinci which sounds are background noise? Simple. You need to record the background noise without your voice so that the program can hear the pops, hisses, and hums very clearly. And then, when DaVinci learns which sounds are considered to be background noise, it will remove all of them from the entire track or clip. Here, I'll show you. First, we need to let DaVinci know that we're going to manually teach the program which sounds are background noise. We could use this auto speech mode feature, which would analyze our audio and automatically identify which parts are speech and which parts are background. But this feature can sometimes misinterpret sounds, which can hurt the quality of your voice and make the audio sound kind of robotic. So we won't be using the automatic feature. Instead, we'll use the manual mode. So make sure that manual is selected. Next, we need to pinpoint exactly where the background noise starts in the recording. You may remember that earlier in this video, we recorded the audio with a few seconds of silence. Well, here's where that comes in handy. In order to help DaVinci pinpoint which part of our audio is background noise, we'll highlight the portion of audio that we recorded earlier. To do this, first, we'll select Focus Mode, which is the icon that looks like this. Next, we'll highlight 3 to 5 seconds of the silent part of the clip. Simply hover over the clip, and when you see this bracket, click and drag it over the silence. You'll notice that the silent part of the clip is now highlighted. Next, we'll select Loop. This way, when we press play, the clip will play repeatedly. Now, click play. Since this is the silence that we recorded, the only noise we'll be hearing is background noise. Finally, we'll click Learn. When we select Learn, we're telling DaVinci to recognize the audio that we're playing as background noise. As the clip loops, you'll notice on the noise reduction graph that there are 2 outlines, a purple outline and a white outline. The white outline represents the audio that we're currently playing, and the purple outline represents what DaVinci Resolve is learning or is recognizing to be your noise. If you don't see a white line, it means the volume of your background is so low that you don't have any noise to remove. Once the audio has looped a few times, DaVinci Resolve will have officially learned what the background noise is. Ultimately, our goal will be to make changes as we play our audio until we see this white outline disappear. When the white outline is gone, it means that all of the background noise has been removed from our audio. Now, unselect Learn, and then click Stop to stop your audio from playing. Okay, the audio has looped a few times, and DaVinci has officially learned what the background noise is. You'll see that we still have the purple outline. This is because DaVinci Resolve now has a snapshot of what it has learned is the background noise. It will use this snapshot to remove only the background noise from our audio and leave our voice intact. Now that DaVinci understands which sounds are background noise, you need to tell the program how loud the background noise is. This way, the program will know at what volume or dB it should detect the noise. This is where the threshold knob comes in. Again, press play to start looping your audio. Look at the audio input bar to find out how loud your noise is on average. Then set your threshold to that volume. In this example, in my case, as I play the silent part of the audio and look at my input bar, I can see that my background noise is around -20. So I'll start the removal process by setting the threshold to -20. This way, DaVinci will remove only what is necessary and won't affect the quality of my voice as much. Now that DaVinci knows which dB to listen for your background noise, you need to tell the program how much you want to reduce the noise. And that's where the dry-wet setting comes in. When your audio is completely dry at 0%, you'll hear the original audio unchanged with all of the background noise. In other words, the noise reduction effect won't be applied to your audio at all. Conversely, when your audio is 100% wet, your audio will get the full effect of the noise reduction effect. Let's turn the dry-wet knob to 100%, meaning that the audio will get the full effect of the noise reduction effect. Now that DaVinci understands how much you want to reduce the noise, you need to tell the program how detailed and thorough it needs to be when removing background noise. And that's where the sensitivity setting comes in. Sensitivity controls just how aggressive the noise reduction effect will be at removing your background noise. When the sensitivity is set to the max setting, you're telling DaVinci to be extremely thorough in identifying and removing noise, targeting even the smallest background noise. The more sensitive the effect is, the more details it will remove. The less sensitive the effect is, the fewer details it will remove. Just remember, cranking the sensitivity all the way up to the highest level could affect the natural quality of your voice, so only use as much as needed. In this case, I'll set my sensitivity to the max setting, meaning I'm removing even the smallest background noises. Dry, wet, and sensitivity may seem similar, but when you play around with these two settings, you'll get an even better understanding of how they work. We recommend setting it to fully wet and making it as sensitive as needed to remove most of the noise. If you still hear background noise, you can lower the level to reduce the background noise even further. Lower the level until you've removed as much background noise as possible. Again, just as is the case with sensitivity, you should only adjust the level as much as needed. Since the fan in my background is very loud, I need to set it to the maximum reduced volume, which is -6. Now that all, or as much as possible, of our background noise has been removed, let's put everything back to the way it was. Click Stop. Unselect Loop. Click the Selection tool, and we can remove the highlight from the end of the clip by holding down the Alt key and hitting the letter X on the keyboard. After you've made the adjustment, toggle the noise reduction effect off and press play to hear what it sounds like without the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now, toggle the effect back on and press play to hear what it sounds like with the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Also, if you're interested to know what sounds are being removed from the audio, select Listen to Noise Only, and you can click the Reset All option if you need to try it again and get a different result. But we have to admit, considering that this is part of the free version of DaVinci, and considering what the track sounded like before we added this effect, the results are pretty impressive. There might be a slight bit of noise left when you aren't talking, but don't worry, we'll take care of that in the next section. When using the noise reduction tool, keep this in mind. In order to get the best results from the noise reduction tool, it's best to record in the quietest environment possible. Why? Because while voice isolation and dialogue separator specifically enhance voices and remove unwanted sounds with precise accuracy, noise reduction, the tool in the free version of DaVinci, isn't as advanced. So, if you often deal with loud background noises that are beyond your control, the dialogue separator feature alone could be enough to make it worth making the upgrade to DaVinci Resolve Studio. Now that you have the perfect settings for noise reduction, it's time to save these settings as a preset. Go to the top left corner of the panel and click the plus button. Then enter the name of the mic you're using and the room that you're in and hit OK. In my case, I'm using the Beacon mic and I'm in my office. So I'll enter Beacon mic, office. Now, whenever you click this drop-down menu, you'll see the name of your customized preset and you'll be able to quickly apply the same great sound every time. You only need to create a new preset if you're using a different mic or there are new sources of noise or you're in a different environment. As you can see, if you want to remove the background noise from the audio, you can use dialogue separator, voice isolation, or noise reduction. So, of the three methods that we just discussed, you should turn on the one that gives you the best results. Since I have the studio version of DaVinci Resolve, I'll use the dialogue separator. So, I'll toggle noise reduction off and then toggle the dialogue separator back on. Now that you know how to reduce and remove background noise, let's talk about the volume. Have you ever watched a movie where the sound gets too loud, so you have to lower the volume? But then the sound is too quiet, so you have to raise the volume. And just when you think it's perfect, the sound gets too loud again, so you have to lower the volume again. In this fight, this push and pull between high volume and low volume continues throughout the entire movie. You may have noticed this with some YouTube videos as well, maybe even your own. Why does this happen? It's because the volume was never properly balanced, and when your highs are too high and your lows are too low, it ends up creating a bad experience for your audience. The good news is you can actually fix this. In fact, what I'm about to show you will make you feel like a real life audio engineer. Okay, let's balance the volume of the voice track. But before I do that, I'll remove the silent sections for these tracks since I won't need them for the rest of this tutorial. Okay, now back to balancing the volume of the voice track. First, go over to the Mixer tool and look for the Dynamics category. Since we're focused on balancing our audio, let's concentrate on the dialogue track, which is the voice track. If you've been following along with me during this tutorial, your voice track will be in the A1 column. Simply double-click the small graph next to Dynamics in the A1 column, and the Dynamics panel will appear. When the Dynamics panel opens, you'll notice several knobs and meters, but don't worry, we're only going to be using the ones that are absolutely necessary. Specifically, we'll use the input bar, which is here on the left. The input bar shows the volume levels of your audio before you process it. In other words, this is what your volume looks like before you make any changes. We'll use the gain reduction bars here in the middle. The gain reduction bars show you how much the volume of your audio is being reduced. There's one bar for each panel below. And lastly, we'll use the output bar, which is here on the right. The output bar shows the volume levels after your audio has been processed. In other words, this is what your volume looks like after you've made changes. Now that you know what these parts do, let's start balancing our audio. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make the loud parts quieter. In other words, we're going to press the loud parts down. How? Simple. We're going to use the compressor. Turn on the compressor by clicking this toggle switch in the compressor panel. But that's not all. Now you need to tell DaVinci how much you want to press the loud parts down. And that's where the ratio knob comes in. When you turn the ratio knob up, it increases the amount of compression applied to the loud parts of your audio. This means that those loud sounds will be turned down more significantly. On the other hand, When you turn the ratio knob down, it decreases the compression effect. This means that those loud sounds will have less compression. So, what's the perfect ratio? The ratio that we recommend for YouTube videos and podcasts is 4:1. This provides just enough compression to reduce loud peaks, but not so much that it makes the recording sound flat and lifeless. You can turn the ratio knob until it reaches 4:1, or you can type this number in manually. But what if you want the loud moments to be more dramatic and the quiet moments to be more impactful? For example, if you're working on a movie or short film, maybe you want to emphasize loud explosions, or maybe you have a scene with very quiet whispering. In this case, you may not need as much compression. If you're working on a movie or short film, then the more widely recommended ratios are 2:1 or 3:1. Now that you've set the ratio, which tells DaVinci how much you want to lower the loud parts of your audio, you need to let DaVinci know when to start doing that. In other words, you need to tell DaVinci at what audio level, or dB, it needs to start lowering the volume of your audio. This is where the threshold knob comes in. Here, I'll show you how to use the threshold knob. First, let's set the audio to loop. Again, in order to loop the audio, we'll click Focus Mode. Next, we'll highlight a portion of the audio where we're actually speaking. About 15 to 20 seconds should be enough. Simply hover over the clip, and when you see this bracket, click and drag it over the clip. Then we'll select Loop and then press play. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Welcome to That
I'll
DaVinci
mute my
Project,
recording
where
so
we
that you
help
don't get
unleash
distracted
your
by
vision
hearing
on
two
screen.
voices at the same time, and you'll be able to clearly hear my instructions, but you'll still see the meters responding to the audio that I just muted. Don't worry, at the end, I'll unmute the recorded audio and play both the before and after so you can hear the difference. Now, we'll lower the threshold slowly while watching the gain reduction bar for the compressor. Specifically, we'll watch the bar in the middle, the one labeled C for compressor. We'll lower the threshold slowly until the gain reduction bar shows that the audio drops between 6 to 10 dB on average when we're speaking. While doing this, keep in mind that we're setting up the compressor based on the average volume of your voice. So if you occasionally see the gain reduced by more than 10 dB, that's okay. This process will help you find your personal threshold for your audio. When you set the threshold, DaVinci Resolve will know exactly when to step in, meaning at what dB to start lowering the volume. This ensures that the loudest parts of your audio will be reduced to prevent it from getting too loud. For instance, in this example, for my audio, I needed a threshold of -20.3. This means that the compressor will activate when my audio reaches that point, keeping the loudest sections under control. Now that you set the threshold, when you play it back, you may notice that your audio is a bit too quiet. So how do we make up for lowering the overall volume? Simple, by using makeup gain. Here, I'll show you how to use makeup gain. Makeup gain is located to the left of the output bar. Let's drag the slider up to increase the makeup gain while keeping an eye on the output bar. The output bar shows us how loud the sound is. The taller it gets, the louder the sound. We'll make small increases to the makeup gain until the highest point or peak of the output bar reaches anywhere between -5 and -10 dB on average while we're speaking, meaning most of the time. Now that we've increased the volume of the quiet parts, you may have noticed that the background noises may have increased along with them. This is normal, as some mics are slightly noisier than others. You can solve this by using the expander and gate panel. Not only can the expander and gate panel remove the leftover noise
that's present when you aren't speaking, but it can also remove any leftover distractions or mouth sounds. So how do we use the expander and gate panel? Simple.
First, we'll enable the gate. Specifically, we'll click Gate in the Expander and Gate panel, making sure that the toggle for the panel is red and enabled.
Setting up a gate in the Dynamics panel allows you to make sure that any leftover noise that isn't your dialogue is removed when you're not speaking. When you're not speaking, the gate closes, effectively silencing background noise. On the other hand, when you speak, the gate opens, allowing your voice to be heard clearly by the listener. You may notice that simply toggling the gate on reduces some background noise, and if so, increasing the range will reduce the noise even more.
Let's increase the range. Specifically, we'll increase the range until the background noise disappears when you aren't speaking. We'll increase it only as much as needed. If you increase the range and you still have noise left over when you're not speaking, you need to increase the threshold. Listen to your audio very closely and slowly increase the threshold until most or all of the leftover noise is gone when you're not speaking. We'll increase it only as much as needed. If we increase the threshold too much, the gate will start interfering with your dialogue, cutting off the beginning and end of your sentences very abruptly as it tries to remove the noise too aggressively.
Here's an example of what I mean. This is what my audio sounds like when the threshold is set correctly. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. And this is what my audio sounds like when the threshold is set incorrectly. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
So, only use as much as needed. If you notice that the end or beginning of your dialogue is going in and out, or start hearing your voice sound a bit more robotic or distorted, then you've increased the threshold too much. In this case, you need to reduce the threshold a little until the distortion is gone.
At this point, all remaining noise when we aren't speaking has been removed. So far, when it comes to the expander and gate panel, we've only talked about the gate. But what about the expander? Well, the expander does essentially the same thing as a gate, but in a less aggressive way. What do I mean? Well, remember, the gate opens and closes to let audio in and out whenever you aren't speaking. But the expander doesn't do that. It doesn't try to remove all of the noise when you aren't speaking. Instead, the expander simply lowers the noise when you aren't speaking. Why would we use expander instead of using gate? Well, even when properly set, a gate in some instances may cut off the end or beginning of your dialogue, or may cause a bit of distortion. So if you would like to be safe, you could use the expander. Let's switch from the gate to the expander.
We'll click Expander. You can use the exact same settings that you used for the gate, but in the expander, we'll add one extra setting, ratio. Ratio controls how aggressive the expander will be at removing noise. The higher the ratio, the more noise the expander will remove. Now, let's set up the expander. First, we'll set the ratio below the expander to max. This way, we'll be able to hear very well how the expander effect affects our audio. Next, we'll listen closely to the audio during the silent moments when we aren't speaking. While listening to those sections, we'll gradually lower the ratio. Specifically, we'll decrease the ratio as needed until we begin to hear the noise return. After that, we'll increase the ratio slightly. This way, you ensure that you're removing only as much noise as necessary, which helps to maintain the clarity of the audio. If you set the ratio to max and you still hear noise, gradually increase the threshold until you no longer hear any noise during the silent moments when you aren't speaking. Now, we should have perfectly balanced audio with all background noise removed.
Okay, now that we've set the compressor and expander, the next step is setting a max volume limit, and that's where the limiter comes in. Sure, the compressor gradually lowers the really loud sections, but the limiter shuts down anything that tries to go above the volume limit that we set. While the compressor smooths out the overall volume levels, the limiter will protect your listeners' ears against any unusually loud sounds. The limiter is the last and easiest panel to set up. Okay, let's turn on the limiter and set the threshold to 0 as a starting point. Next, we'll adjust the threshold knob and we'll watch the last bar of the gain reduction meter, the one that's labeled L for limiter. We only need to see just a small bit of movement on the meter to know that the limiter is working. Now, let's hear what the recorded audio sounded like before we balanced the audio. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Okay, let's hear what the recorded audio sounds like after we balance the audio. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now that you have the perfect settings for your voice, it's time to save these settings as a preset. Go to the top left corner of the Dynamics panel and click the plus button. Then select Create New. Next, enter the name of the person who recorded the dialogue and click OK. Now, whenever you click this drop-down menu, you'll see the name of your customized preset and you'll be able to get consistent leveled audio for your dialogue every time. You only need to create a new preset if a different person uses your mic. So now that the audio is processed and it sounds clear and consistent, you may want to add music. Let's add music to the project. I have 2 music clips, so I'll drag both of my clips over and place them on the music track that we created earlier in this tutorial. Next, let's normalize the music. Remember, when we normalize the audio, we're telling DaVinci to analyze the audio track and raise the volume to the proper level. This way, no matter where you get your music from, you'll start with the perfect levels. If you only have one music clip on the track, you can normalize it by right-clicking the clip, hovering over clip operations, selecting Normalize Audio Levels, and then choosing your preferred normalization. As mentioned earlier, we prefer to normalize to YouTube standards because YouTube standards work for most platforms. Finally, I'll hit Normalize. If, however, you have multiple clips on the track, like me, you can normalize them by highlighting all of the music clips, right-clicking on one of the clips, hovering over clip operations, selecting Normalize Audio Levels, choosing your preferred normalization, and then for the set level, select Independent. Finally, hit Normalize. If you're creating a music video or your entire video is only music, then you're in luck. Normalizing the music is the only thing you need to do. However, if you have dialogue in your video, that is, if someone is speaking in the video, then you may be wondering, how do I add music so that it's loud enough for people to hear, but not so loud that people struggle to hear me speaking? If you want to ensure that the music is never too loud while you're speaking, there are a few methods you can choose from. I'll show you each of these methods. The first method is the easiest and most obvious. Turn the music volume down. Start by selecting the music track. Then go to the inspector panel. At the top of the inspector, below the audio tab, you'll find the volume control that allows you to lower the volume for that specific track. But what volume should we set the music to?
Well, if you want the music to be quieter while still being a significant part of the listening experience, lower the volume by about 18 to 25 dB. However, if you want the music to be more in the background, such as for a tutorial, you may want to reduce it even further by about 30 to 35 dB. In this example, I'll be using my music as background for a tutorial. So I'll lower the volume of my music track by 30 dB. You can use the slider to lower the volume or type the number directly into the box. There, the volume of our background music is now at a reasonable level.
But what if you don't want the music to be low the entire time? What if you want the volume of the music to be lower when you're speaking and then turn back up whenever you're not speaking? That brings us to method number 2, the ducking method. Instead of a consistent low music volume, the music will simply duck beneath your voice while you're speaking and then increase whenever you're not speaking. But there's a catch. The ducker feature doesn't work on individual music clips. It will only work for the entire track. Here, let's reset the volume of the track.
Now, I'll show you how to use the ducker. The ducker is a track effect located in the audio tab. At the very bottom, toggle the ducker on. Now, we need to tell the ducker what track we want the music to duck. In this case, we want the music to duck the track that we're speaking on, and that is the voice track. So, click Source and select Voice. So, how much do we want the music to lower or duck when we're speaking? Let's adjust the duck level to 18 dB. This way, the volume will be noticeably lower when you start speaking.
Now that we have the ducker settings in place, whenever someone is speaking on the voice track, the music will lower. And when there's silence on the voice track, the music volume will increase. Okay, let's play it back to see how it works. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. The volume lowers during the speaking part. However, with the default settings, it makes changes to the volume too quickly. Let's make the change more smooth and gradual.
Click the custom icon beside Ducker and a settings panel will pop up. Let's start with the recovery knob. The recovery knob controls just how gradual or quickly the volume of the music recovers or increases when you stop speaking or take pauses. If we set the recovery to 0, move the red playhead so that it's positioned just before the beginning of the voice recording, and then press play, we'll see that it raises the volume as soon as you stop speaking. Here, I'll let you hear what that sounds like.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
However, if we set the recovery to 1000, and again, move the red playhead so that it's positioned just before the beginning of the voice recording, and then press play, we'll see that the volume raises more gradually when you stop speaking. And here's what that sounds like.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
In my case, I'll leave the recovery at 1000 because I prefer that the volume raises as gradually as possible whenever I stop speaking or take pauses. Next is rise time. The name is quite deceptive. The rise time knob doesn't make the volume rise. Instead, the rise time knob does the exact opposite. It controls how quickly or gradually the volume of the music lowers when you start speaking. If we set the rise time knob to 0 and move the red playhead so that it's positioned at the beginning of the voice track and then press play, we'll see that it lowers the volume immediately. Here, I'll let you hear what that sounds like. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen. However, if we set rise time to 1000, and again, move the red playhead so that it's positioned at the beginning of the voice track and then press play, we'll see that the volume of the music lowers very gradually as the dialogue starts. And here's what that sounds like. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen. I prefer that the volume lowers as gradually as possible whenever the dialogue starts, so I'll leave the setting at 1000. There's also hold. Whenever we speak, we tend to take short pauses between words and sentences, but we don't want the ducker to raise the music in between these short pauses. That's where the hold knob comes in. The hold knob determines how long the volume will remain reduced between each pause you take when you're speaking. The lower the hold, the sooner the volume of the music will increase whenever it senses silence or pauses in the dialogue. On the other hand, look ahead listens for dialogue. The look ahead knob determines how long the program waits before lowering the music when it senses that someone is about to speak. The higher the look ahead, the sooner the volume of the music will decrease whenever it senses that someone is about to speak. Now, if you want to make changes to hold and look ahead, play the audio and lower the values of each setting one by one, slowly until you get the result that you want. There's no perfect setting for hold or look ahead because with hold, some people may take longer pauses than others, and controlling the transition with look ahead is a matter of personal taste. What if you want the volume to be even lower? Well, since the ducker is limited to ducking by only 18 dB, we'll have to lower the overall volume of the track. If you want to lower the overall volume of the track, first make sure that the music track label is selected. Then go over to the inspector panel and make sure that the audio tab is selected. And then lower the overall volume from there. But what if you want to duck multiple tracks? For example, maybe you're working on a podcast that has multiple speakers and you recorded each speaker on a different track. In this case, ducking multiple tracks can come in handy. Here, I'll show you how to do it. We're done with the ducker panel, so let's close it. Let's create another voice track. Right-click on the voice track, hover over Add Track, and then select Mono. We'll name this track Voice 2. Next, I'll delete the second copy of the voice track that I added earlier, since I don't need it right now. I want to keep things clean and simple so you can easily understand what's going on. Next, I'll drag another person's voice from the media pool onto the track. It's my brother's voice, which is deeper than mine, so you'll be able to easily tell the difference between the two when we're making changes. I'll normalize this track so that it's the same volume as the other voice track. If we play back our audio, you'll notice that the music only lowers for the first voice track. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
It ducks for my voice, but not for the other voice. How do we fix it so that it lowers for multiple voice tracks? Simple. Select the music track label. Then go over to Inspector, and inside the Ducker category, you'll notice that beside the Source 1 drop-down menu, there's a plus and minus sign. Select the plus sign. This will create a new option labeled Source 2. Click the drop-down menu beside Source 2 and choose Voice 2, which is your newest voice track. Now, if we play back our audio, you'll notice that the music lowers for both tracks. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits.
What if, even after turning the music down or ducking the music beneath your voice, it's still too distracting? Perhaps the music you chose has a beat that's very busy. Well, at this point, you can try the third method, which is the stereo width method. When you use the stereo width effect, it literally pushes your music to the side so that your voice is the main focus of the audio. So how do we enable the stereo width effect? Very simple. First, go over to the mixer and select the music track. Remember, our music track is currently A3. Next, click the plus sign in the effects category. Hover over spatial, and then select stereo width. Just a side note, if you don't see the spatial category in the effects menu and you're sure that you've clicked the plus sign in the effects category for your music track, this means that your music track is set to mono instead of stereo. In this case, right-click on your music track label, hover over Change Track Type 2, and then select Stereo. Now, let's push the music to the sides so that our voice is the main focus of the audio. How? Turn the width to the maximum setting, which is 2.00. Okay, let's play it back and listen to the difference. Here's how it sounds with the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. And this is how it sounds without the effect. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. The effect is pretty subtle, but it's very effective at helping your voice stand out, especially to viewers who are listening with headphones. I've just shown you several ways to make the music less distracting, specifically the entire music track. But what if there's a specific instrument or vocal that's causing the distraction? This is where the music remixer comes in. With the music remixer, you can turn down or mute instruments or vocals that you find distracting. Let me show you how to use the music remixer. First, since we're done with the stereo width panel, let's close it. Now, to access the music remixer, first make sure that the music track label is selected. Then go over to the inspector panel and make sure that the audio tab is selected. The music remixer is located beneath the dialogue separator. Toggle the music remixer on. As you can see, you can change the volume or mute the voice, drums, bass, or guitar. There's also one other category, Other. Other would be any other frequencies outside of the vocals, drums, bass, and guitar. You may have to experiment with this one to figure out which settings are best for your specific music. In my case, the drums sound very heavy, which can be distracting. I can either mute them or turn them down with the volume slider. The music remixer feature can be enabled on the track level or per song. Sometimes removing an instrument or two isn't enough to make certain types of music less distracting. There may be an entire range of frequencies in your music that are distracting, and those frequencies may need to be reduced. Let me explain. Every sound is made up of frequencies. There are lower frequencies for the lower, more rumbly sounds, like, for example, a bass drop, and higher frequencies for more high-pitched sounds, for example, cymbals. The lower the frequency, the lower the number of the frequency. The higher the frequency, the higher the number of the frequency. So how do we reduce frequencies in our music? Well, this is where the last method comes in. The equalizer method. We can use the equalizer to reduce the frequencies of our music and get the effect that we want. Here, I'll show you how to use the equalizer to reduce frequencies. But first, it's important to know that different music genres have different frequency ranges. This means that changes will be more or less noticeable depending on the genre we're working with. For example, classical music tends to have higher frequencies. So if we reduce the higher frequencies in this genre, the change will be a lot more noticeable than if we had reduced the lower frequency. Conversely, hip-hop music tends to have lower frequencies. So if we reduce the lower frequencies in this genre, the change will be a lot more noticeable than if we had reduced the higher frequencies. Let's make adjustments to the equalizer. Go over to the mixer and you'll see EQ, which is the equalizer. It's here beneath the dynamics category. Then double-click on the equalizer panel in the EQ category for the track that contains your music. In my case, I'll double-click on the equalizer panel in the A3 column. Specifically, we'll use band 1, band 4, and band 6. If you want to make your voice stand out more, you can start by adjusting band 4. Why band 4? Well, band 4 by default is set to the 1200 frequency range, and around 1000 or so frequency range is where most of our voices live. So, if we lower the gain of band 4 by about 6 to 9 dB, it will reduce these frequencies and clear a path for your voice and make it easier to hear. Let's lower the gain in band 4 by 6 to 9 dB. We can make the scoop on the graph wider or more narrow by hovering over the band 4 circle and scrolling our mouse wheel up or down. A wider scoop will help to make your voice even more clear. Let's turn band 4 off to hear what it sounds like without the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now, let's turn band 4 back on to hear what it sounds like with the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. That takes care of the voice, but what about the higher sounds and frequencies like cymbals and violins? In this case, you can adjust band 6. Let's disable band 4 for now so that we can focus solely on the sound of band 6. Now, click band 6 to enable it. You can press play and then lower the frequency until the music sounds less distracting, or until you get the effect that you want. In this example, I'll lower my frequency to around 2.5K so that you can hear what the music sounds like when the higher frequencies are removed. Let's turn band 6 off to hear what it sounds like without the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now, let's turn band 6 back on to hear what it sounds like with the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. That takes care of the high frequencies, but what about the lower sounds and frequencies, like bass guitars or kick drums? In this case, you can adjust band 1. Let's disable band 6 for now, so that we can focus solely on the sound of band 1. Now, click band 1 to enable it. You can press play and then raise the frequency until the music sounds less distracting, or until you get the effect that you want. In this example, I'll raise my frequency to around 100 so that you can hear what the music sounds like when the lower frequencies are removed. Let's turn band 1 off to hear what it sounds like without the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. Now, let's turn band 1 back on to hear what it sounds like with the adjustments. Welcome to That DaVinci Project, where we help you unleash your vision on screen, transforming your mind's eye into masterful edits. You could use any of the combinations of band 1, 4, and 6 that you'd like. You could even use them all at the same time. You may want to use them all at the same time if your goal is to push the music as far into the background as you can. This will be helpful for videos where it's very important for the dialogue to be heard, such as a tutorial video. In this example, I won't adjust any of my frequencies, so I'll turn off band 1. But if you choose to adjust any of your frequencies and you want to save your changes as a preset, here's how you can do that. Go to the top left corner of the panel and click the plus sign. Then select Create New. And finally, add the name of your preset and press OK. So now, whenever you click this drop-down menu, you'll see the name of your customized preset, and you'll be able to quickly apply your preferred equalizer settings to any track with just one click. Okay, let's close the equalizer panel. Now that you're familiar with what method you can use to make your music less distracting, keep this in mind. You can use as many or as few of these methods as you'd like. However, the more of these methods you use at one time, the more it lowers the overall volume of your music, because each method involves lowering parts of the volume. So if you use 2 or more of these methods, the volume may start to seem a bit low. In this case, you can either turn up the main volume or reduce the amount of ducking. Now that we've created the template and adjusted all of the settings to our liking, we need to remove all of the temporary audio files that we've been working with. In other words, we'll remove everything from the timeline and media pool except the settings, so that the next time you open this template, you'll be able to use it for any project you'd like. First, we'll delete all of the audio clips that we have on our timeline. Simply click anywhere on your timeline, then click Ctrl plus the A key, This should select all of your audio clips. Now, press delete and this will remove all of the clips on the timeline. Next, we'll clean up the media pool. Open the media pool and we'll delete everything except the timeline settings, which you'll remember is labeled template timeline. Once we've deleted the extra files, we'll save our template one last time. Click File and then select Save Project. Now we have a template ready to manage our audio for any new project.
So now that you've saved your audio settings as a template, how do you actually use this template each time you start a new project? Simple.
Click File and then select Project Manager and select the template you created. Remember, we named our template Project Template, so I'll select that. Next, go to File and click Save Project As. You can name your new project whatever you'd like. I'll name mine New Project and then hit Save. There, you still have all of the same settings from the template you created.
Now, if you record or drop your files onto the timeline, you'll have all of the same settings and effects that you applied to your template. But what if you've recorded audio and video separately and you want to sync them? Or what if you want to remove silences from your audio? Here, I'll show you how to do both, starting with syncing your audio and video.
Let's head over to the Edit page. If you want to sync your audio with your video, first add your audio and video to the media pool. Next, click on the video that has the original audio. Then hold down the Control key and click the external audio file you want to use. Once both files are selected, right-click on the original video, hover over Audio Sync, and then select Auto Sync Audio. A box will appear with two options. You'll be given the option to either sync your video using waveforms or timecodes. If you want DaVinci to analyze your audio by the visual waveforms, then select Waveform. But if you have a device that also records timecodes with your audio, select the timecode option. If you choose Waveform, you can also select which audio channel to sync with. If you aren't sure about which channel you want to sync with, you can leave it set to 1, or you can simply select Automatic. Finally, hit sync and your original audio will be replaced with the higher quality audio perfectly matched to your video.
Now, let's talk about removing silences from the audio. If you want to remove silences from the audio, you're in luck. DaVinci Resolve can automatically transcribe your audio and remove the silences for you. However, this feature is only available if you have the studio version of DaVinci Resolve.
To remove the silences from your audio, first go to the media pool and right-click on the video clip or audio clip you want to remove the silences from. Hover over AI Tools. Next, hover over Audio Transcription and then select Transcribe. After it finishes analyzing, a box that contains your transcription will appear. Click an empty space inside of the box. Then press Ctrl plus the letter A to select all of your transcription. Next, click this X icon. Finally, go to the bottom right corner of the box and select Append. This will remove all of the silences in your video or audio clip. After removing the silences, you'll notice that your clip has been added to the timeline and that it has been cut and trimmed down.
Now that you know how to use the template to get the perfect audio every time, how do you make sure that you get the highest quality audio during export? Here, I'll show you.
Go to the Deliver page. It's the last tab at the bottom of the workspace. It looks like this. Click the Deliver tab. Now, go to the top of the Deliver page and select Custom Export. We'll start in the Video section of the Export settings. The only settings that we need to change in this section are the format and codec.
We need to change these because only certain video formats unlock the highest quality audio codec, which is linear PCM. Linear PCM will give you uncompressed audio and allow you to export at a high quality of up to 32 bits.
For the format, I'll choose QuickTime. And for the codec, I'll choose H.265.
QuickTime is the most commonly used format that unlocks linear PCM. Choosing QuickTime for format and either H.264 or H.265 for the codec gives you the most compatible combination to use across all social media platforms.
As for the rest of the settings in the video section, you can use your usual export settings. Now, we can choose the settings for our audio. Click the Audio tab. Then, click the drop-down menu for codec and select the linear PCM codec. Finally, for bit depth, set it to 32-bit. This combination gives us the highest quality audio.
But what if you want to export audio only? For example, maybe you want to export a music track or use your audio for a podcast. Simple.
Go over to the Video Settings section and uncheck Export Video. Next, go back to the Audio section and choose the format you would like to use. If you want to use linear PCM, then for the format, select either QuickTime, Wave, or MXF-OP Atom. Again, for the format, I'll choose QuickTime, and for the codec, I'll choose linear PCM and set the bit depth to 32-bit. If you need a specific format for a podcasting platform, for instance, MP3, simply choose it for the format instead of QuickTime. In this example, my project is going to include audio and video, so I'll recheck the export video setting in the export settings. Now that we have the best settings, we need to normalize the audio.
That is, we need to make sure that our final track has the perfect audio volume, no matter what platform we share the video on or what standards are required. Normalizing the audio in the export settings is easy.
First, from the audio section, click Audio Normalization. A menu will appear. Next, select Normalize Audio, and then choose the standard that you want to normalize to. In this example, since I'm exporting a video for YouTube, I prefer to normalize to YouTube standards, so I'll select YouTube. Finally, we'll tell DaVinci how we want the program to normalize the audio. There are two options here: normalize to a standard or optimize to a standard. If you choose to normalize to a standard, DaVinci will adjust the final track to the perfect level for whichever standard or platform you choose. If you choose to optimize to a standard, DaVinci will also add compression to your final track. Since we already added compression and properly mixed our audio, let's leave it on normalized to a standard. Now, let's save all of our final export settings as a preset. Click the three dots at the top of the Render Settings menu. If you want to update one of your existing presets, hover over the name of that preset and then select Update Preset. Or, if you'd like to create a new preset, select Save as New Preset. And your preset will be saved at the top of the Render Settings menu. The next time you want to export using these settings, just click on your preset and it will apply all of your custom settings automatically.
Speak with clarity, 'cause there's too much noise around us.